Hello, I will be using you because I am discovering about a show called Appy. Sometime during 1999, after Noggin was launched, Nickelodeon aired a new show on their program called Appy. It sounded like some nursery rhyme that a babysitter would sing, but it wasn't. It was short show, 10 minutes, and normally played in duets, making each episode 20 minutes, minus the commercials. A month after it was premiered, it was pulled off the air and was never aired again, even its nicer episodes. However, some parents did record the show, but there were VHS copies. But some of those VHS copies were only some VHS copies survived. However, that was really rare. There was intact DVD copy of the any episode. I was one of the lucky ones that had a DVD copy. Yesterday when I did some spring cleaning recently, okay, winter spring cleaning, but who cares? I found some old DVDs with a Sharpie on them, which read Ha 10 to 1 to 10. I did some research by using Google and Roblox. Unfortunately, I have found out that there were initials for Appy. In the replies, they said that there are no DVD copies around, which is false because I have some copies. So I decided to put them into the disk drive, praying for them to work. Well, they did, and they instantly cut to the intro. By the way, I really haven't described how the show, or haven't I? There is a giant clay apple with the hands and feet being held up by a rusty bent stick. He helped children when they got hurt, but as the show progressed, it just gotten creepier. Like death, stare, and evil smile creepier. However, they did change the stick to a non-rusted, but still bent stick. By the 8th episode, he wasn't even a clay model. He looked like he was in CGI, but he wasn't. Probably a very good animation? To describe more about the colors of Appy, his eyes were dark blue, his mouth was dark green, and he had a leaf on his head. His intro of the song had the same tune as Mary Had a Little Lamb. It went something like this. Happy, appy, appy, app, happy app, said 2 times happy app, happy, appy, appy, app, he helps kids all day. Repeated this 3 times. Although enough with that said, let's describe of how the actual show episodes. Episode 1 and 2 were called Happy's Vacation and Hurt's Happy, respectively. Happy's Vacation was exactly what you thought. Happy going on a vacation and helping injured kids at the beach. Hurt Happy was Happy getting hurt, and the kids were helping him by giving him band-aids and fruit, which is weird because they'd given him an apple in one part. Nothing seemed to be out of place when I first saw it, but when I saw the second time, it looked very odd. While Happy was driving his van in Happy's Vacation, some frames were skipped. I ignored it, saying that it would be just a scratched DVD, but when I checked it, it wasn't scratched. Also, I noticed that there are some place objects in Hurt Happy. When Happy's van, there was what looked to be a border of the Hope poster. Also, the radio plays the country music in a strict version of Hot and Cold, which was made back in 2018. Well, 2008, to be recorrected. And a very out of place for a kids show. I thought these were just a coincidence. Well, I was wrong. Episode 3 and 4 were stranger. One moment that you could send chills down anyone's spine was the boo-boo scene in episode 4. Happy aids a child who has a bruise on his knee. He looks at the camera, death stare on his face, and says, "What does Nate," I think that's what his name, it wasn't Kevin, needed for his boo-boo. For 30 seconds, he stared at the camera, motionless. His dark blue, soulless eyes locking in with anyone watching. Finally, he spoke. "That's right, a band-aid." Why did he need it to say that long to speak? I don't know. The intros were cut out, and the main episodes were missing a few scenes. On episode 3, the 0512 is when he does the first death stare evil smile for 30 seconds. It was somewhat eerie. Also, the OOP objects were getting really more noticeable. There was a news broadcast about a tsunami that recently struck Japan. Happy said, "Oh no, if you want to help the Japanese, call this number," and a 1-800 number was listed. February 24th, 2011. I watched episode 5 first off, and it had Happy on his new stick. The episode was very violent. In the episode, Appy was doing his trademark death stare and smiled for half the show. Afterwards, he helped 2 children, and the first one he cut out was look at sight of blush. Blood was seen in the bush and screams were heard. The other kids waits for Appy, and when he's seen emerging from the back of her and then skips frames, the next scene I see was a blood trail heading lead into a bush, and Appy was doing that damn smile. In episode 6, showed Appy doing the death stare, but it was hardly visible. Then it went to static for the rest of the show, and I couldn't believe it. I moved on to episode 7 and 8. This time the episodes were so violent, so badly made that they could have been aired on Nick. Episode 7 had Appy take a kid to his van, flesh cutting could be heard, and so could blood splatters on the window and screams, which turned to gurgles. Then emerged from doing a death stare and a smile from 0921 to the end of the show, or 10 and 00. Like I said, 8 had him doing his CG-ish monster. But this episode was confidential, and I couldn't believe that Nick would even allow this. It then cuts off with Appy going out to the playground, telling the kids about the cycle of life. Cycle of life, I mean frogs and plants. The kids would then say, "Thanks, Happy." But then the smoke creeped behind Happy, and so Happy and the kids turned around to see something really messed up was mentioned. Were burning up. And people were falling off, there were screams of fire and crashed airplane. And the tail could be seen sticking out. All I could hear were faint whining noises, and I think that it was the plane. Then a piece broke off, hitting and possibly killing someone. When a kid asked, "Appy, what are the towers doing?" It then cut to the kid that was stuck under a huge metal piece crying for help. Some of the other kids tried to help him, but he was screaming so loud it was almost heartbreaking. There was blood everywhere, and the fear on the person's face was so realistic. I cringed. Appy turned to the camera, and just like the photo on the top right-hand corner, these 3 words, "That's natural, children." He then dragged them away, leaving the trapped kid behind. I jumped out of my seat. Was Appy a death bringer of some sort? Or was he a master predictor? I had no idea, and I had to continue. Episodes 9 to 10 were up. Oh, and if you want to know what happened when I called that telephone number, tomorrow I decided that I would tell it. February 25th, 2011. Just a quick thing. I just called the phone number that mentioned episode 3, and it was a recording, which I could translate for you. "Hello, I'm Happy Appy, every kid's most helpful apple. If you want to make a donation, press 1. If you want to know about the earthquake, press 2. Pressing 2 gave me this. An earthquake and tsunami hit Japan, and we need your help. If you can make a donation of 1, 2, 5, 10, 20, 50, or $100, you'll be bringing a big help. Anyone who donates get a Happy Appy badge." So I decided to press 1 and donate $1 to the donation. And then it said this: "Thanks for helping being the aid of the tsunami. Now in with the mail. You'll get your Happy Appy badge within a week." February 27th, 2011. Episode 9 was corrupted. It started up, but with the whole thing, but it had no audio. And the rest of the part was so messed up that it was hardly viewable. The next part was just a plain static for the rest of the video. Great, 2 missing episodes, I thought. 10 wasn't. It started off with some weird offbeat carnival music. It then started with Happy Appy, still looking at like we did in episode 8. But this time, as the episode went on, his CG-ish model looked worse and worse, like injury-wise. He was in his van, driving against the road that looped on, and eventually he reached the playground. Many children were at play. Happy looked as if he was ready to kill all of them. Then he said, "Hey kids, who wants to see Happy do a magic trick?" The children cheered and ran into his van. Then he closed the door and drove off. After that, he came back, smiling like he just killed them all. I just couldn't take it anymore. For some reason, Happy was making me feel nauseous, but I continued. The remainder of the show, before the credits, it was him reading the viewers, and with the new future events that were going to happen for a long time. Examples were the Libyan riots, Chris Bennett's murders, and him taking lives, and even the SSS Columbia disaster. Meanwhile, there were random breaks, which were showed behind scenes. Look at them realistically. All at the credits, Happy was holding a knife covered in blood, and the camera shot down where there was a table. A hand cut with marks were visible. Then it showed a blank screen with white text. If you get any of these DVDs, I copied Happy Appy over to them. I wanted to preserve this to them so that they weren't lost forever. You may wonder, how did Nick allow 10 episodes or 7? I don't know. They just did it. That's all at once. If you want to see more, see me, KC. KC was that my friend, Kevin Costo. Well, he did say that he worked for Nick until the end of the millennium, so he probably helped with Happy Appy. I decided to visit his house. When I entered, Kevin wasn't home. His wife was sitting, crying. I asked her what happened to Kevin, and she replied with something that shocked me. I don't know what happened, but something or someone kidnapped him last night. I don't know where, but he or she left this. Take it. I then folded up the piece of paper, and I unfolded it. It was a picture of Happy Appy during the one incident scene, with the exception that he looked badly scarred. Before I left, I asked her how these horrifying episodes got on Nick. She replied with he drugged the producers. He was going to. That was enough. I couldn't bear to take it anymore, so I left the house and drove off. When I got out, I decided to walk towards my house. Then I heard a gunshot and screams from a woman, probably Kevin's wife. I glimpsed at the picture again. This time, Appy wasn't in the photo. Instantly ran to my house because I knew whoever killed Kevin was trying to kill me. Before I opened the door, I saw one of the last glimpse behind me. It was Kevin's mutilated arm in a bush and an unknown figure standing behind it. March 3rd, 2011. Hey, I wanted to know if anyone has any Happy Appy videos. If you do, send them the link to one. What happened to my discs, you may ask? Well, I found them in pieces, like claw slashes them in thirds, along with a note saying, "No more evidence now, huh?" March 4th, 2011. I finally got my Happy Appy Bridge badge today. It came in the box with the timestamp from 1999 to 2000. When I opened it, I got a letter from Happy Appy and the badge was Happy Appy smiling, but not with a death stare, and on the back it said, Happy Appy Helper Badge. I decided to read the letter. To my friend, you have helped us and helped the Japanese. Of course, let me introduce myself. Unregardably, you have heard of me on Nick Jr. Can't you understand? Well, I'll give you the answer. Happy Appy Appy App. Appy App. Appy App. Happy Appy Appy App. He helps the kids all day. Now where do I start with the gifts? Today I have given you a nice badge, right from the playground. How did you get we get these, you may ask? Running across the playground, I tripped on a rock and I fell. But when I noticed the ground, it was uneven. Undoubtedly something was there, so I dug the ground up, and there were a crate of thousands of these badges. Now it's time to be off. See me on your next adventure. Love, Happy Appy.